It is time for NRCS Partyline today for your Tuesday. That would be June the 30th, the final day of the month 2020. NRCS Partyline brought to you by Wimmer Opticians of St. Cloud, Atlas Family Chiropractic of Wade Park, our sponsors. According to our Community Technology Center weather station, we are at 77 degrees now. We have the dew point around 66. Actually, the dew point now is at 71. It just changed. That means it's sticky. 77 is our temp currently. High today, according to the forecast, of 88. Ugh, it's going to be one of those days today. But luckily, in studio with me for the first time in many a weeks, the brave ones. We've got Dennis Fuchs, administrator with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District, and Chris Hogge, District Conservationist, NRCS. Welcome. Nice to see your faces once more.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Long time coming. And apparently you were allowed to be here in person. Is that the deal?
Yeah, we're trying to still implement all of the CDC recommendations and sitting 6 feet apart. And I see we got plexiglass between me and you, Brad.
We're pretty safe.
Yeah, we're pretty safe. We're doing a good job here. And hopefully it moves out. But every so often when you think it's ready to move out, you get an increase. So Brad just slid the plexiglass over a little bit more so he had a little better protection as
there
I was
we go.
talking here.
Oh, I feel safer.
Jeez, you listeners, if you guys knew what we had to go through to put up with this Brad guy, chappers.
Man.
Dang. But, our office is assisting people. But we are still closed to the public as far as having anybody come into our office. We're still have the office closed. What we've been doing is getting phone calls or emails from folks, and we've been doing actual site visits out in the field, and that's been working pretty good. Chris, what do you think?
All of the NRCS staff, if we need to meet with producers, we've been meeting out in the field, on site with each of the producers to, if we need to get documentation or certified practices, we've been just meeting them out there. We have been usually calling or emailing for documentation if it's sent for, if we need it at the office, they can send an email or snail mail. But yeah, we've been keeping pretty close to the producers out in the field.
The office website is a great place if you wanted to get a hold of us or have a specific staff person email address. We're all listed on our website. So you just Google Stearns County SWCD, and all the NRCS staff are also on our website. It's a great way, and you can even submit a site request visit from our website. We got numerous ways to get a hold of us, and our phone number, if you just want to call us the plain old-fashioned way, that's 320-251-7800 and extension 3. And that'll get us to our office. And then we got some new people, not for the SWCD side. We're still with our existing staff there. But Chris, you've got a couple of interns and new folks that have joined the team, and you want to tell us a little bit about them, and hopefully we can get them out here to KASM Radio maybe next month or the following month.
Yeah, we're looking to get them out here next month. We have William Wagner Ernst. He has come to us from Michigan, and he has a little background in forestry. He started, about the time, probably about 2 months ago. So we're looking forward to having him come on board and help with some forestry. And then we have Gunnar. Gunnar is part of the Pathways internship program. So if you're a college student out there interested in getting into the USDA or the Natural Resources Conservation Service job opportunities, that's an excellent opportunity for you to get exposure. It starts when you're a junior. You can start looking into it when you're a sophomore, but it starts when you're a junior, and you have 3 summers with us, and you can really gain some excellent experience. And after those 3 summers are through, if you have your necessary credits in soils and plants, and you graduate from college, you pretty much can walk into a USDA NRCS position pretty easily, because you'll have all the background necessary for getting the positions.
So that Pathways position, If I'm interested, say I'm a sophomore or junior in college and really like natural resources, so what do you just go to the NRCS website to apply for it?
You can look. They usually come out in probably in the wintertime because they like to do it a little early. So you can go on to the usajobs.gov website and they will have them listed there. Or you can contact your local NRCS office and we can help you get those lined up and get you in contact with the right people so you can get those applications submitted.
So there's only a set number of those positions throughout the country, right?
Correct. And I don't have a number of how many, but I believe there might have been 2 to 6 in the state of Minnesota, so they're pretty competitive, but most generally they're open statewide and they're open nationally, so you could actually get an internship in another state and they will pay for some of the housing. You get a stipend for housing and you get paid for your internship. So it's something that can be beneficial both ways.
So if you applied for that and you didn't make the cut because the position was filled or there just wasn't enough positions, could they also pursue the Earth Team Volunteer? It's a volunteer type of position where you don't get paid, but it would be a great way to get some experience at a field office, correct?
Correct. We have a Earth Team Volunteer program, which we have one in Waite Park. Her name is Karen, and she works with basically doing a lot of our office stuff. She started 2 weeks ago now. And yeah, that's a really good opportunity. You can use your Earth Team Volunteer as technical. You can go out to the fields. You can take part in survey design. You can do conservation planning. You can work with producers. I mean, that's an open position to do kind of what you want to do. You'll be just kind of tagging along with folks as they work in the field. The one really nice thing about that is that's kind of a step to gaining experience, which could make your application for maybe pathways or another position possible with your extra, Earth Team Volunteer. I have a lot of folks that have spent some time as an Earth Team Volunteer. I just hired Kelly in Elk River, and she had Earth Team Volunteer background, plus she had what we call contracted employee she used to work for Ultima in our offices, so that also was a way she could gain experience. So it's just any way you can gain experience, that's always beneficial when it comes to applying for the positions.
Oh, I agree. When we look at an applicant, we'll look at the education they received and their GPA, and then you start looking at what have they done for work, what are their experiences, and if they've worked in a USDA Service Center or an SWCD or NRCS office, that really brings value to the applicant, and it usually guarantees an interview at least for the person to come into the office and interview. So really encourage folks going to school. If you can get one of those pathways internships, those are really nice because you're getting paid. The Earth Team Volunteer is a volunteer type of position, so you're putting your time in. It's a very flexible schedule, but it does. You can get that on your resume, and you can capture that, and it brings value to the resume.
And that's not even to take into account that just because you have pathways internship, you could also get positions in with any one of the soil and water conservation district opportunities in each one of the counties in Minnesota, and there's basically an NRCS office in most every county, and there is usually a SWCD in most every county. So the job opportunities are out there if you know what you're looking for and you have the experience necessary to get on board.
And after the break, we're going to talk about the demand. There is a lot of work to be done out there. We've, as far as getting out in the field and doing some conservation planning with folks that signed up for the Environmental Quality Incentive Program and other grants, there is a lot of people out there, and it takes time and effort to work with every one of these landowners that need some help, everything from pollinator habitat to fixing a feedlot runoff problem. So it's just something that seems like the growth in this conservation area is not decreasing. It actually seems to be growing, especially in Minnesota. So kids out there that are wondering, what should I do when I graduate from high school? Well, there's a lot of opportunity in the natural resource conservation field. So I'd encourage you to explore that and The Department of Natural Resources, another area, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, Minnesota Department of Health, they all have positions associated with natural resource protection, like Minnesota Department of Health. That'd be source water protection, like our drinking water supplies, and being a person that works with communities as an SWCD can also do that. NRCS works one-on-one with landowners addressing their resource concerns. So it's just a huge opportunity out there for young people to pursue. And what about the ACEs? Is that the program for retired folks that are looking for some additional work?
Correct. That's a program for folks that are 55 and above, and they are looking for either full-time or part-time work. And it is a program that basically gives those folks an opportunity to get on and experience kind of what we're doing. They can, if they have technical background from their past, they can get in and do basically engineering type practices, and if they have administrative type experience, they can come in and assist with administrative type work in the office, which there's always enough of that with the government. We always have paper. There's a paper shuffle for sure. Mm-hmm. But there's always an opportunity, and if you're interested, all you got to do is give the office a call, and we'll figure out, see if there's a way we can get you on and either get you paid or provide you with some volunteer opportunities.
All right. You want to wait for everything else till after the break?
Yeah, when we get there, we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming supervisor election. Speaking of new people, one of the supervisors for the SWCD is going to be stepping down this fall, so that opens it up for a new person, and we'll introduce that person via airwaves.
Radio.
And we also have a couple other folks that are going to be incumbents on the ballot again, so we'll talk about that when we get back.
It's time.
Oh, it's
almost.
Time. Okay,
yeah.
Well, gosh darn it. And I
got about 45 seconds to kill, but...
Okay.
Didn't you say something about an outstanding conservationist, too?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, too, when we come back. We have got the candidates. I'm going to let the listeners know who our outstanding conservationist candidates are.
I like it. All right, Dennis Fuchs in studio, and Chris Hogge also in studio from SWCD, NRCS. They are here in person today.
Feels so good.
Feels so good to get out of the home office. And into the studio here at KASM Radio. If you have any questions for our guests, 320-845-2184. That's 320-845-2184 or 1-800-950-2148, 1-800-950-2148. 77 degrees. It is 9:30. Time for news here on KASM Radio. All right, more Answers Partyline visiting with Dennis Fuchs, Administrator with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District, Chris Hogge, District Conservationist, NRCS. Oh, Mr. Fuchs, let's pick up where we left off.
All right, let's start off with talking about elections. Yes, this is an election year, in case you didn't know. And Soil and Water Conservation District supervisors are on the ballot this fall, and it's a term that they serve for 4 years. And we've got 3 supervisor positions that are up this year, and 2 of the candidates are already on our board. One is Arlen Lorenz, and he's a supervisor representing District 2, which includes the townships of Crane, Holding, Brockway, Albany, Avon, and St. Wendell, and LaSac. So he's on the ballot. And the other individual that's on the ballot again, Supervisor Matt Bruette, and he represents District 4, which includes Farming, Collegeville, Munson, Wakefield, Painesville, Eden Lake, and Luxembourg. And then the District Area 3, which is the southwest corner of Stearns County, we had Supervisor Dave Weller, who is going to be stepping off this fall when his term expires the end of the year. And very happy that Dave was able to provide us services for many years on the SWCD board, did a fantastic job of overseeing policy and the books and making sure that we did things properly at the local level. But he wanted to open it up for another candidate, and there was a person out there interested in running for this position. That was Kenneth Sheffers. I call him Ken. Ken Sheffers. He's in Zion Township. In this area that he represents is North Fork, Lake George, Spring Hill, St. Martin, Zion, Lake Henry, Crow River and Crow Lake. So it's that whole southwest corner. And Kenneth is in the Zion Township. So it's kind of weird. The supervisors represent these territories, and that's where they have to reside in order to be a candidate for that district. But the election itself is countywide. So if you live in the St. Cloud region, and you can vote for Ken Sheffers. So that's the neat thing. So when you see these names on the ballot, I think they do not have any competition. There's no candidates running against these folks, so there's only one person per area. So make sure you put your vote out there for them. And I think we're going to have a great board of supervisors. And Tom Gregory and Chuck Uphoff were not up for re-election. The ballots or the candidates' supervisors' term is for 4 years, and they're staggered so that we don't have all 5 supervisors' terms up at the same time. So we go 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, and work it that way. So very excited to have a great candidates on the ballot once again. So one thing that we also do is nominate outstanding conservationists from the supervisor area. And this year, we're going to be in Dave Weller's area. So that includes those townships in the southwest part. And we've got 3 candidates that were willing to be on the slate. And we're going to be visiting these folks coming up here in July. Chris will be joining us along with the SWCD board. And I'm going to share with the listeners who those candidates are. They include John Magus, Roy and Kurt Lensing, and Joe Borgeting. They're all great farmers doing a lot of conservation practices out on their farm. They all are Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certified, which means you have to have a certain level of stewardship in order to get certified, and they're all doing that. Very excited to have those as their candidates. As you remember, last year was Galen Wilczek was our outstanding conservationist, and he was up in the Holding Ford, Arlen Lorenz's supervisor area. And we will be looking at those folks in the middle of July, and then the board will make a decision on who the outstanding conservationist person is for 2020, and I hope to share that with your listeners at our next show, which we haven't scheduled yet, but I'll be working with Brad to get scheduled hopefully the latter part of July, and I can share that information with your listeners. Very exciting. And then they're recognized at our state convention down at Bloomington with the Minnesota Association of Soil Water Conservation Districts, and just a great opportunity to recognize someone, and it's going to be extremely difficult for our board to make a decision because we got 3 very good candidates this year, just like last year, and it's just going to be a tough decision. But you know, they're going to have to make a call and select somebody, and they'll be recognized at the banquet then this December.
So for your judging guidelines, do you always have a minimum of what they need for sure, and then whatever else they have above and beyond that kind of sets them apart?
Nope. Basically, we evaluate all the conservation practices they have implemented on their farm, and then we also just look at how they're recognized in the community and their ability to speak about conservation practices. And anybody that speaks positively about the Soil Water Conservation District office and NRCS definitely is something that we like to see, because we try to achieve really good customer service, and if we deliver that, we like to have folks share that with other farmers and other landowners so that we get more work and more projects and more conservation on the landscape, just making our resources better and better and better. Speaking of which, did you want to talk a little bit about some of the environmental quality incentive program work that's going on in our office? Speaking of getting our resources protected and getting them better?
Yeah, I can give an update on the EQIP. Yeah! We just wrapped up, or in the process of wrapping up, the EQIP 2020 program, and we had 62 applications, and we were able to get 12 of them accepted. We had 7 manure storage applications accepted and 5 cropland accepted. It sounds like it's not a lot, but there was a lot of work tied to each one of those, and if you were one of those applicants that had an application in, you should be getting contacted here probably in the next week or so on whether your application was funded or not. and you should be either receiving a phone call or an email. So if you are one of those folks, do review your emails to see if you were accepted. As far as the team, and I am basically the district conservationist or team lead for the Waite Park service, our customer service team, and I basically oversee 6 counties, and that is Stearns, Wright, Benton, Anoka, Hennepin, and Sherburne. In our whole team, we had 160 applications that we addressed and worked with, and we had a total of 44 applications accepted as far as the team goes. So 12 for Waite Park or Stearns County, and then the remaining were in the other counties. But out of 160, 44, that's just a little shy of 33%. So we're doing all right as far as that goes. And of the 44, we had manure storage was probably the majority of the dollars, but we had a lot of cover crops, erosion control, energy, irrigation. We had some high tunnels that were accepted, and nutrient and pest management were also opportunities that people were able to get funded. So if you have any of these options or ideas that you'd like to work with us, we'd be more than happy to meet you out in the field. Feel free to give us a phone call. We'll set up an appointment to meet you, and we can discuss kind of your short-term or long-term goals of where you want to go, and we'll get the conservation planning started and get you ready for an EQIP application. And we are also, for those folks who did not get accepted, and we will be contacting you again here in the next week or so, we are looking into alternative funding sources. Some of those I'm not really familiar with, and I'm sure Dennis would know more about them, but some of them are the Sauk River watershed funding, some DWSMA funding, but we've been doing some conversation and looking into seeing some of that alternative funding. So you should get a phone call again, and if there's an alternative funding source, they will be mentioning that to you. So maybe we can reach out for grabbing some of those dollars also. So
just speaking of dollars, just very disappointed with the total amount of EQIP dollars across the United States. When Congress approved the Farm Bill, they made a barrel so big, and they're only partially filling this barrel. So that's something I'm going to be visiting with our SWCD board about, and our state association of SWCDs, to see if there's things that we can do to encourage Congress to fully fund this. We had a presentation by Keith Olander with Central Lakes College looking at the amount our dairy farmers, the smaller size dairy farmers, that the actual gross income that they take home annually is, between $18,000 and $35,000 a year for the past 5 years. And I'm looking at that number going, wow. And then what people do, and that you got to pay for health insurance out of that. So the way farmers are satisfying their income needed is somebody's working off the farm in order to bring that income up in order to survive. And then we've got farmers that have resource concerns, and they want to get them protected. Us living out in greater Minnesota want to have our resources protected. We want our rivers clean, our lakes clean, and our drinking water clean. But there's just not enough money out there to provide some stimulus. I don't know where they think the farmer's going to pay for some of these practices when they're barely making a living the way it is. And if you got to continue to take it out of your assets, you're not improving your equipment or your facilities, and we're just really degrading rural America. So we need to figure out, I'm going to work with my board, and how we can fully fund all of these applications, because it's going to help stimulate our local economy and also protect our natural resources at the same time.
That's what we're looking to do, and we've kind of looked at the planning process from the NRCS side for Stearns County, and my team. We're kind of revamping our planning process to maybe help with producers to maybe benefit their ranking applications. So we're going to look at other opportunities to see how we can increase scores and make things a little bit easier on the producer from our side. So on those ones that didn't get funded for this year, we'd really like to set up time to meet with you and discuss kind of what opportunities you might have to expand on what you've applied for. So look forward to a phone call from our staff.
One thing that the state offers is a clean water fund. This is through the legacy amendment that resulted in additional dollars from additional sales tax that is collected annually. And some of those dollars end up back in Stearns to do clean water funded projects. So we're going to take a look at some of these projects that weren't funded, that we already have a design and a lot of information collected. And if they're in a targeted priority area, say in a drinking water supply management area or an area where we got a sub-watershed that is experiencing high bacteria levels from feedlot runoff or LJ from nutrient runoff from phosphorus, we're going to see if we can't put these in an application and try to get those funded for next year. So we're, as staff, we're trying to work hard for our farmers and our landowners here in Stearns County because we know how hard you work to provide us cheap food. So thank you for what you do out there, and just want to let you know we got your backside.
And that comment that you made about going out for, what was it? What funding was it? Clean water funds? Yeah, that's an interesting idea, is that we're looking to maybe target areas, have more of a target approach for specific dollars. So if you have a good idea for projects and you and your neighbors are getting together and working on, maybe a joint application or something, please feel free to talk to us, because that seems to be very beneficial if we can get local neighbors and everybody on the same page to make water quality improvements, and that also will look good when we put in our applications for clean water funds.
Yeah, right. Were you going to talk a little bit about CRP?
I was, if we have a few minutes.
Oh, you have time,
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
I got a few things to add to it too, but you go ahead and talk about what you were going to talk about. Then I'm going to talk about what I was going to talk about.
You're just pushing this all on me because you don't want to talk today. I see how that works. All right, so I just want to bring up that FSA is opening a program, and they call it Clear 30. It's a new pilot program for farmers and landowners. And what this is, it's a CRP, Conservation Reserve Program contract that's 30 years.
30 years.
Yep, it's 30
Wow.
years. This sign-up is going to start on July 6th to August 21st, 2020. This pilot allows us to work with farmers and landowners to maintain conservation practices for 30 years, underscoring farmers' commitment to sound long-term conservation stewardship on the land. Eligible producers must have expiring clean lake estuaries and rivers or clear initiative contracts. This is basically most of your continuous CRP cropland acreage with the water quality practices. It is also marginal pastureland CRP contracts devoted to riparian buffers and wildlife habitat buffers. So these are some of the ones that we have in the county. This is going to be the focus is wildlife benefit, water quality benefits, on-farm soil retention benefits. Will likely be endured beyond the length of the contract. There's also some air quality benefits and the cost of not farming things that are basically non-productive.
So if we have a farmer out there with a CRP, continuous CRP contract, this would, if that's expiring, this would be a great opportunity to explore the clear.
It could be, yes. And if you're interested in doing those kind of things, you'll need to contact our office or FSA and inquire about it, and we can look to see if your eligibility is all good. The rental payments for this program are based on the productivity of the soil within each county and the average dry land cash rent. The maximum rental rate for each is calculated in advance of enrollment to the program. Producers may offer the land at a rate or offer a lower rate to increase likelihood of being accepted. There's also 50% cost share of the actual or average cost to getting things established, so they will pay for additional seeding. And the major practices that we have in Stearns, and I think some of the surrounding area that some of our other listeners, is going to be grass waterways, filter strips, riparian buffers, wetlands or wetland buffers, or saturated buffers. And feel free to call and talk to us if you have any questions. We will kind of review the eligibility portion of it. To be eligible to enroll into CRP, the producer must have owned and operated it for at least 12 months preceding the first year of the contract period. To be eligible for CRP land, you must have one or more of the following. It must be highly erodible that is planted and considered planted 4 out of the previous 6 cropland years, and those years are set, and I'm not sure what those years are. But if it's had farm ground or CRP on it, it's more than likely going to fit that criteria. Marginal pasture land is another opportunity and it needs to be suitable for the use of riparian buffers or for similar habitat or water quality purposes. It must be ecologically significant grassland that contains forbs or shrubs for grassland, and you can also do a farmable wetland or some related type buffers like that. So that's basically the breakdown. If you have opportunities or thoughts that you fit this program or would like to inquire about it, again, please call us at the office. And the sign-up period starts July 6th to August 21st.
Wow, so that's next week Monday.
That is next week Monday.
Holy buckets. So if they come in, can they also talk about continuous CRP as another option?
They can talk about any CRP, but they're going to have to call and we'll set up an appointment. They can't come in. I mean, see, I told you. You leave him alone for a few minutes, and he just goes off on his own. They can't come into the office. They have to call and set up an appointment, and we will be more than happy to meet you out in the field.
There you go.
We'll do a little bit of upfront work with it, with getting some maps and some soil so we are a little bit prepared, and then we will come out and meet with you and talk with you about what opportunities you have. And
I don't know if any of the listeners get the Farmer Magazine, but Warren Formo, he's with the Ag Water Resource Center, and he just put in 5 reasons to consider the continuous sign-up CRP. One is there's no sign-up period, so it's continuous. You can go in there when you have time and review it. It's also better targeting. It's very important for water quality, and most of these eligible practices are intended to protect water resources, and it must be suitable for these practices, such as what Chris talked about: grass waterways, filter strips, buffers, and wetlands all qualify for the continuous. There's no competitive bidding like there is with the general sign-up. The continuous sign-up, there is no competitive bidding because they're already targeted to these high-priority areas. Also, you can help avoid potential regulations like the Minnesota Department of Ag has got our groundwater protection effort. And if we need to put some of these areas into CRP, this is an area where you can also use the continuous. Plus, you get a higher payment rate. Typically, on average across Minnesota, this isn't for Stearns, but you're looking at about $160 for continuous. It varies dramatically depending on your soils and site, but for the general, it's closer to $75. So there's just a significant value to these critical areas that the government wants to pay for. So if you're interested in the 30-year option or the continuous option, give us a call and we'll meet you out on site, and we can discuss it more.
All right.
One thing I want producers to realize that if you have issues with farming a particular location, say it's too wet or you have, in some situations, it's too dry. If you have those situations, we need to work together to maybe they're not where you want to be farming. And we can enroll those into CRP, or we can at least look at some other alternatives. We also have some WRP or wetland easement type where they're 30-year easements. We have some CREP opportunities. We have a lot of different ways to address areas that may not be as productive as the rest of the field. So we need to get those areas out of your farming operation so you can buffer what you can't farm and then farm what you can. And that's really what we're looking to do.
You want to talk about the woodland training next time around, Dennis?
Yeah, we can do that next time. And then I should probably share our phone number one last time. 320-251-7800, and we're at extension 3. Thank you very much, Brad.
Very good. All right. Dennis Fuchs, Administrator with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. Chris Hogge, District Conservationist, NRCS. Thank you, Chris and Dennis, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a minute past 10 o'clock. We'll be right back. News information coming up.